And I'm here on behalf of the Ridgeville Foundation to formally invite all of you to our annual fundraiser, Tavern Tales. It is coming this 3 weeks from tonight, actually, May 2nd at Firehouse Grill. And this will be the third year that we do this sort of storytelling event. I think that we've learned a lot from the first two, and this event is going to be all local storytellers. So in the past, we've had some like amateur storytellers, then professional storytellers. Everyone seems to really love the amateur storytellers, so we're sticking with that. So it's going to be all people from the community telling stories. But besides that, it'll be very similar. We'll have some raffle items, some silent auction stuff. It'll be a really fun community event. I hope you guys can make it. I dropped a postcard off in front of your on your desk area there, but if you want more postcards to give out, hit me up after the meeting. And this will be our first time doing the event in May. It's kind of serving as a kickoff to the summer. And the money that we raise from this is going to fund Concerts on the Ridge and Shakespeare on the Ridge. Shakespeare on the Ridge is celebrating its 10-year anniversary this summer, which is really making me feel old. We hope to raise a few $1,000s, which will fund that, and also maybe give us some momentum for the third pillar in our On the Ridge series, if we can figure it out. The sculptures on the ridge, galleries on the ridge, something. We're zeroing in on it, but hopefully we'll get some momentum from this event. And any questions about the event or? Great. Well, I'll be around. So if you think of something, we can talk after.
Another.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
My name is Beth Stair. Through my kids that were involved in the spring day camp, where the Mafia game was played. They're the ones that brought it to my attention. There's a few things I want to comment about that. So the fact that it happened, but also the fact that it happened again after bringing it up to a supervisor, and the series of interactions I even had with that supervisor following that, as well as the fact that there was sort of a breakdown in communication within the organization to even let leadership know of this serious concern. I think it really highlights a more deeper, insidious problem, I think, within the organization that I look forward to seeing be resolved. I feel that Ridgeville really needs to overhaul the program and bring their standards really up to current best practices. I appreciate your thoughtful response initially to me, as well as the fact that you've promised to make material changes, and you even provided me with some information in a really expedited manner. I really appreciate that, and I feel that it's a good sign that you are taking this event seriously, and that you're really using this as a learning opportunity to really launch a significant improvement. And there's a lot of work to do, starting from now, and I appreciate your efforts. So there's 4 things I'd like to mention. One is that I would like to see, and I think the community would also like to see, either documentation or some kind of statement as to how the staff and the counselor training or might be processes, some guidelines, something, how that's going to be changed in light of the spring break Mafia game incident. There wasn't really much training that was shared with me that was done before the spring break. So I'd like to see something sort of come out of that. As well as, you should have some guidelines in general for anybody sort of working with children. And it could even be different for working with teens. And I'd like to see the training materials and even some camp agendas. 2, I would like to get confirmation that the Spring Break Mafia Gang counselor will not be working for the 2019 summer camp, as well as the Spring Break Camp supervisor within the summer camp. I think they both probably have, they could use some training, be it maybe from a third party rather than internal. And I would like to see the personnel policy from 1992 be revised for best practices. I have a really great example from Winnetka Park District that I looked over. I think that's a really great model example. So 4, I think Natalie actually already attended the conference in January for IAPD, IPRA. It's the Illinois Association of Park Districts and the Illinois Park and Recreation Association. They actually have a boot camp for leadership as well as for board members. They also offer that you become accredited. So I would urge you as an organization to seek that out. It's a long process. You start the process, actually they're due April 1st. But it takes a while to get, you have a year, almost a year, to really get everything in order and to submit your application. And there's it's local. You have some really great park districts that are within your own community that are involved. Also, I urge you now, rather than waiting for next year, I would like to see everybody on the board and the leadership to participate in one of the boot camps. It's a 3-hour training session, or basically talking about best practices. And they are offered throughout the state, various locations. You can probably find one that's going to be within our drive. Or I didn't see one that was actually in Chicago, but I think there's some in a suburb. So those are the 4 things I wanted to talk about, and raising my concerns, and I appreciate the fact that you've promised to make some significant changes.
And I would just like to say on behalf of the board, we would like to apologize as well for what happened. Any more comments?
My name is Sarah Utley. I have a young daughter who has attended several of the Ridgeville summer camps, fairy ballet, your Halloween happenings. I've always enjoyed coming here, and I had heard about the game. My daughter is signed up for the summer camp for the 5 to 7, and I am a little bit worried, which is why I'm here tonight. As a Ridgeville resident and a mother, and a teacher, actually, I'm a little concerned about, I guess this is the first time I've had to think about my daughter interacting perhaps with counselors that aren't trained, in school and in preschool and things of that nature. Everyone was already, the leaders were accredited and certified, and I'm a little concerned after reading and hearing about this, about the training for this. And, obviously the experience with the mafia, I'm going to assume that that's not going to happen this summer. But I am concerned just from a sort of a holistic view. Is this a good camp for our community? Are what we're doing here, are there agendas? Are there plans? Are we leaving high school students to sort of make their plans on their own? Is there a daily meeting before the camp starts in the morning so that the high schoolers know and college students know what they're supposed to be doing? And that's kind of why I'm here today. I'd like that voice of confidence. I'd like to know that before I send my daughter, who's 6, into your hands for several hours a day for 8 weeks. So that's what I'm hoping to hear from this.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments?
Hi, my name is Roy Easton. Long time resident. Currently, leading up to the election, there were some issues that were raised that members of the Black community were having. We were discussing amongst ourselves, and one of them is the fact that for a period of time, and I'm 51 years old, and we're talking about all the way back to when I was 10 years old, that there's been reoccurring incidents that have, in regards to the removal of equipment and using the police as a deterrent for when too many black people are utilizing the facilities at Ridgeville Park District. Now, I understand I was a sports and rec director at the Y. I was a program director at the Wilmette Park District, and I taught special ed for 13 years. So I understand that systematically some things can fall through the cracks, but for something to fall through the cracks over a period of 40 plus years, at some point in time it needs to be addressed in a way that, I mean, like when my daughters, when I brought them over to Ridgeville, when they were at Oakton, my daughter Olivia, who's pretty outspoken, was like, I don't want to go here, there's nobody that looks like me. You know, and sort of the feedback that we received back then was that since they ended up going to City of Evanston Park District, and then I got them down at the Y for that summer, for some summer activities. But the gist of it was, I made a decision for my kids not to go here. It was on me. Now, there's some, I mean, statistically speaking, Oakton and Dawes are both 76% children of color. And if we just look in this room here, and if we're talking about the parents of the children that are in the programming, then, I mean, maybe my math is kind of fuzzy. It just doesn't add up. And we're not talking about, and part of the problem is, because it's been ingrained so long, like I compared it to the Confederate statues down south, black people knew, we knew we weren't allowed, we didn't belong. Therefore, we just didn't complain too much about it. Just knew that was, go to Ridgeville Park District, that's kind of out of bounds for us. Therefore, we are not gonna participate, we're not gonna frequent those parks. But now, since that election and some things happened on social media with the social media and everything else, kind of a lot of black folks are up and, you know, they pay taxes in Evanston and they look at these parks now and they're like, hey, you know, I live right across the street from this park. Why can't my kids go there? So, I said all that to say that there has to be some form of outreach that goes beyond just putting up flyers in the neighborhood and things of that nature, because this is an ingrained, systematic, low-key form of racism that, and I hate using that word, but I'll keep it real for y'all, that has infested an otherwise diverse community here on the south side. So, in South Evanston. So, I'm here to, in any way, shape, or form, help. And like, I worked with Mudlark Theater and Hack Studio and several other Pivot Theater and helping with to help diversify their programming and things of that nature. I mean, I can be utilized as a resource in regards to what that outreach looks like. But there is instead of some of the wrong people speaking up and turning it into a huge wedge issue, I think that being proactive right now, because people are waiting to see what comes out of the election, because everything that was stated on social media, so they're sitting back because they heard some things that were supposed to get done, so they're just waiting in the weeds so that they can hold you guys accountable. So my suggestion is to be proactive, to get ahead of it, and that's pretty much all I got, I think. Yeah, that is.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay, Brian, do you want to address a couple of those issues when you give your report? Would you like to address a couple of those issues when you give your report? Okay, good. All right, let's move on to the approval of the minutes from last month.
I move to accept the minutes draft of March 14, 2019.
Second.
I'd like to talk about it if we could.
Sure. I mean,
What I'd ask is, Julie, if you're open to that, I would like a little bit of a revision. The citizen comments part 1 and part 2 with Alderman Rainey. If we could, instead of, and you did a good job of trying to summarize, if you don't mind going back and just verbatim in quotes what she actually said would be helpful for the official minutes. So, thank you.
Any other amendments to that? Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approval of the bills?
I move to accept the, oh, sorry.
I'll go through the unusuals.
Okay.
First page. AT&T, the fourth one down is high because our contract had expired, but now it's renewed. So we paid the $620, but we're gonna get refunded in May. So, or a credit in May. So that's kind of unusual when you see the phone bill that high. As we go down, Lighter Park equipment is the big one on the bills, $63,782. That's the equipment we ordered. It was delivered around April 1st, and it's almost done being installed. So if you get a chance, you can go buy it. So that's that one. National awards is 10 banners or 12?
10.
10 banners that we use to promote programs out here in the park. People driving by can get a view. And then Sunrise Tree, that's the damaged down tree limbs that we pick up in the park on a daily basis or a weekly basis after a storm. $350 they take them and they mulch them. That's it. Unusual.
I move to accept the Ridgeville Park District General Account April bill summary of April 11, 2019 for the amount of $83,619.10.
All in favor?
Aye.
Petty cash?
Yep.
Carbonite is back up for my computer. This will be the last year we have it. Harry and David's a gift basket that was sent to my house. Thank you very much. Mother-in-law passed away on April 2nd, so it's very nice of you. MailChimp is the monthly fee for emails over 2,000. Red's Garden Center, as we went out to Northbrook and got really good compost for the 908 Seward Gardens here for the garden class. Target, plastic eggs, Sam Club, snacks, and a variety of paper products. YMCA, Natalie went to the Equity Summit today, and that was the fee.
I make a motion that we accept the petty cash and the amount of $676.82.
Second.
All in favor? All right, Brian.
Okay, we are now in our extremely busy time. We are gearing up for summer programs and completing 2 major projects. One project is the play circuit at Lighter Park. Loyola Park's I'm sure, not ours. The equipment has been delivered, and by the way, like I just said, if you stop by, it's 85% installed, and then we have to do a few things. The second project is the 908 Seward roof replacement. We expect that project to begin next week, take 5 to 10 working days. It's actually going to start Monday. Color is almost as close as we could get to what was up there. Maintenance crews repairing turf areas of our parks with seed and or sod. Our parks will be heavily used this spring. AYSO is using Cayman East, Cayman West, and Lighter Park on Sundays from noon to 6. EBSA will be using baseball diamonds at Cayman East and West on Saturdays beginning May 4th, I believe from noon to 3. Full-time staff is scheduled for CPR, AED certification. There's also an EpiPen portion of that. On Wednesday, April 17th, summer staff who need to complete CPR, AED training will do so at the orientation training day in late May. Actually, it might be June 1st now. I will have a tentative budget for you on May 9th, at the May 9th board meeting to begin the 2019-2020 budget process. We will need to pass a tentative budget in July and appropriation ordinance in September. As most of you know, I'll say it again, my mother-in-law passed away April 2nd. Thank you for the kind thoughts, the gift basket sent by the Park District. When you're in a situation like that, you don't think about food, but you get hungry. You come home and there's something there, so we appreciate it. Some other folks sent flowers, it was very nice. Thank you. Some replies here. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. I don't hear so good. Gentleman that spoke. William, I think your comments about being proactive are right on, and I think Natalie and I will figure out a way to do that, maybe with some help. Also, Beth, there's several things you said that we can meet and discuss, and I think we can get on a lot of that. Personnel policy that you mentioned, there is one in the works. It's not completed. It's not even close, but we started it a year ago, and the next board maybe can put that on the agenda immediately, and we can get going on the revised personnel policy. IAPD conference, I've been to several times. Natalie went this year, so we could go every year to that. If anybody can't afford camp, and we've had approximately $7,000 in requests this year, everybody gets something. We have turned nobody down. So when it comes to potentially folks who can't afford it, all they have to do is fill out a form. We don't hassle anybody too much, and we last year I think we gave $6,600 in scholarships. This year it's going to be closer to $7,000, and so at any rate, anybody who needs help, we're here to help. So those are a few of my comments. Some of it I didn't hear all the way, and I have to digest it and meet.
Thank you, Brian. Either now or later on, when we talk about the employees, would there be an option tonight to generally talk about the demographics of the people that are being offered a job? Just in general, their cultural background, maybe ages roughly, and approximately where they live, whether they're in our district or out of district. And also, if we know about our campers, similarly, do we have any general demographic information to help us? Either now or later.
Yeah, most of that I can't answer. I can tell you this, of the 35 folks that are going to work in the summer, 17, to the best of my knowledge, are minority. Again, that's a little difficult to assess. It's not always obvious. So 17 out of 35 of the core summer staff. Where they all live, most of them are Evanston. I'd have to go through that, and I could give that to you next month. But the vast majority are Evanstonian. I would guess 20 to 25 out of 35 are Evanston, maybe even more. Not necessarily Ridgeville, but Evanstonian.
And if that's possible to break that down, I'm not looking for anyone's address, but just their zip code, let's say. It kind of tells us if they're south of Greenleaf or north. And same with the campers. Are they from our district or not?
What?
The actual campers, the customers,
yeah.
where do they live,
Yeah.
approximately?
Yeah.
I
just figured out how to do.
Great.
And I would just like to have you maybe elaborate a little bit on what training you do prior to the summer camp. Like what do the counselors, they have to show up a few days early, or what is, what do you do?
You want me to take that?
Yeah.
Okay. We have a big staff orientation day. So all of the summer staff comes at like 8 o'clock in the morning. We walk through our personnel policy. We talk about our camp counselor guidelines. We have some dialogue about that. They all sign off saying that they've been there and participated in that orientation. If any of them can't go that day, then I will sit down with them one-on-one and go through all of that. We do CPR and AED and EpiPen training for anybody that needs that. A lot of them get that training at ETHS, so more and more every year. We don't have as many people stay for that, which is great, as long as they're getting it. The past couple years, we've had Commissioner Braun come in and do a workshop with us on working with kids with special needs, which has been extremely great. We break out into individual teams, so like pre-K, 5 to 7, time travelers and creative arts camp, so that the staff has an opportunity to meet each other and meet their camp directors. At that point, they start planning, doing some programming ideas, tossing their ideas into the bucket and figuring out what they're going to do. The camp directors are mostly responsible for the programming that actually happens each week. A lot of them choose a theme. Our time traveler camp, for example, they'll pick a time in history and they'll focus on that for the week and do different arts and craft projects that correlate with that idea. I'll bring in special guests to do a music performance with them, a dance performance, some kind of activity that corresponds with what that theme is. Anyway, the directors mostly plan that, but they're really great about being receptive and open to feedback from their staff. So they have opportunity to do that as well. So that's a big day. So we do that, and then typically once camp starts, they have pre-camp meetings, pre-shift meetings, so they'll meet, talk about the plans for the day and kind of onboard everybody for what the day is going to look like.
And typically Fridays, we meet with camp directors to see if there's any special needs, anything. Obviously, if they have something that's pressing, they come right up. So typically on Fridays, we meet and discuss that. The Evanston Township High School health class does a really nice job of certifying the kids. So if it's a high school kid, they usually come certified. If it's a college kid, maybe it's labs. Certifications are good for 2 years. So every 2 years, Natalie and I and Ruben Marcos, we get certified. But the kids that come in mostly are certified. I think last year maybe 8 or 10 needed to be certified CPR, AED, and then we get a training in EpiPen. Because a lot of kids come with allergies.
And if you want a copy of the guidelines, the training material, I'm happy to print that for you as well.
I just thought that, some of these people here would like to hear it. Yeah.
Brian, Dan, can I ask?
Go ahead.
So, Brian, I noticed that Natalie took the equity training class at the YWCA, and we only have a few full-time employees that actually deal with the public. Would you be open to taking that training as well?
Absolutely. Now, today I didn't go because it's day of the board meeting, and we both can't be going. And today was the only day.
Mm-hmm.
So I will go, and are we now a partner?
I'm happy. I'll tell you about, we met with Tiffany McDowell, who's the leader of the Equity Institute with the YWCA, just to talk about some collaboration and partnering opportunities. And she told us about the summit that was going on. So like you said, we couldn't both be gone today, so I got to go, which was great. But we have follow-up meetings prepared. So she's putting together a proposal for some seminars to do with our board and with our staff moving forward. But I'll tell you more about that.
Thank you, that's helpful. Could you speak just a little bit too about, is it called the Youth in the Parks employees? They're not the camp counselors,
Right.
but they're the employees, sometimes guards from the high school or other people that are assigned a park. And could you talk a little bit about that training? And
You change the batteries.
Yep.
our youth in the park counselors are all CPR, AED certified. Most of them work at Evanston High School in the academic year. They also all have diversity training, mandatory at the high school. So they are trained well. I know that sometimes I hear not enough recreation, but that's easy to fix. But they're all trained, diversity training, CPR, AED, and obviously our recreation policy, which we didn't mention, but everybody reads that and signs off on that too. Sorry.
Any other questions? Okay, Jerry, you're next.
Do you want to go next? Who's next?
I'll go.
You've got the typical package of financial reports. I'll start with the appropriations ledger. Overall, the disbursements are running about 10 percentage points below the plan for this time of year. That's using projections derived by taking the annual and dividing it by month, which isn't always necessarily a reliable guide, as our expenses don't necessarily occur equally each month. We're running about $20,000 higher than at this same time last year, excluding the Brummel Park capital project. The general fund year-to-date disbursements are running about 3 points below the expectations through March. Salaries, wages, and benefits are 4% over. Administrative disbursements are 5 percentage points over. Repairs and maintenance is running 13% over. But capital outlays so far are at 0, which is providing the offset as to why we're basically at about the same level of disbursement this year as last year on the general fund. In the recreation fund, the disbursements overall are about 9% below the ordinance expectations. That would seasonably be typical because we're kind of in the time of year that our recreation expenses are low, but we're going to make up for that really fast when the summer camp season starts. Salaries, wages, and a lot of that favorable variance is in the program and part-time wages. Capital outlays, you've just approved a big bill tonight that's going to kind of contradict this, but right now, you know, we're way below budget in those categories. Overall, the recreation fund is about $20,000 higher than it was at this time last year. Half of this is paying for the after-school program, and the other half is the new fiscal year expenditures last summer for the Brummel Park renovations, where we had a lot of the maintenance, the chips and things like that to finish the border in the park. Turning to the statement of revenue and appropriations, highlights off of that report. From a cash flow perspective, total revenue exceeds the total appropriations by roughly $336,000, which is an increase of a little over $200,000 from last month. That's mainly because tax revenue, that was a big month for receiving tax revenue, and program revenue continues to come in at a strong level. Year-to-date, as the summer camp and things are being signed up for. Year-to-date net program revenue is at about $135,000 compared with a budget plan of $113,000 for the entire year. However, remember, we've got about $20,000 of that that's going to be refunded back out to our partnership vendors, for example, the cardboard camps. So when that kind of happens, we're basically going to be at plan for program revenue. On the balance sheet and the general ledger trial balance highlights, you'll notice that our cash balances have increased from $226,000 to $462,000. We are now carrying balances in excess of the FDIC insurance limits, which is out of compliance with district policy and public fund requirements. The spring tax receipts plus the gift we received last fall are what are the contributing factors to this excess cash position. This will somewhat be resolved. For example, we just approved $83,000 of expenses here. It's going to be somewhat resolved by the disbursements in the next few months when our revenues are going to start to fall. But I'll also bring some additional recommendations for that to next month's board meeting to get us back in compliance. Notable activities in the last month. We sent a Scrivener's letter correcting the 2 $500 errors in the detail sections for the corporate and recreation funds of the levy ordinance. That was submitted to the county clerk's office. The letter was drafted, thank you, Charlie, and signed by me. It went out under my name. We're awaiting the annual levy edit report from the county clerk. That's expected any day now. Last year we got that notification on April 9th, and it had to be, it was made available for review on the 16th and had to be approved by the 20th. So we're right in that critical time period where we're waiting for that to happen. That's basically where the county implements the levy ordinance and double checks back with us that the numbers look like what you voted on and approved in December. So that's all I got.
Well, I got Jerry, we were talking about park money. The new play circuit that's going up at Leiter, we had to expand the north side a few inches, so we lost that side of the perimeter. The rest of the perimeter is, when I say perimeter, I mean the 6x6s that keep the wood chips enclosed, so the fall zone is safe. So, and then the other side is, it's old. It's old. At any rate, what I'm getting at is we have plenty of money in R17 right now for playground and park equipment, and I'd like to replace the perimeter with the similar stuff we put at Brummel Park, which is rubber border tubing or timbers. Anyways, material installation would be $3,500. There's $20,000 in R17 earmarked for things like this at Leiter Park. So I'd like to give you the heads up that I want to go ahead and do this. I talked to Jerry and Ann today, and we agree there's money and it should be done.
So you would be expanding the border a little bit on the north side?
Yeah, it had to be excavated farther because the system is a little different. So the fall zone for the slides and anything you're climbing on has to be X amount of feet, and we are 6, 7, 8 inches short.
So have they taken out the timbers now?
Yeah.
They have.
On the north side.
Just on the north side.
When Hacienda does it, which I think will be Monday, we'll take out the rest of the timbers and put in the rubber border.
Okay. So do you want a motion for that, or?
That'd be great.
The way that I understand it is that anything under $5,000, Brian really has the.
Yeah, I don't know that, I mean, you'll approve it when the bills come next month, but just to give you the heads up, it's an unusual number coming at you.
And it will last longer, right, Brian?
Better.
Yeah.
All right, Natalie.
All right. This month, Ridgeville Park District celebrates Jewish American Heritage Month with a book club discussion of My Real Name is Hannah by Tara Lynn Masai. Ridgeville readers meet on the last Sunday of the month at 3 p.m. in the community house. Everybody is welcome and encouraged to join us. Visit the celebration board on the RPD website for events and activities around the city that your family can participate in. Spring Break Camp. We had a great turnout this year for Spring Break Camp with up to 20 plus kids in attendance most days. V. Witter served as camp director again with 3 additional counselors. There was an incident at the beginning of the week with a game that was played called Mafia. This game is a storytelling improv game where players figure out who the Mafia players are and who the Angel players are. Imagine a hybrid of the games Heads Up, 7-Up, and Clue, if you're familiar. Mafia can be played in many variations, and at the Spring Break Camp it took a gory turn. The game scared 2 of our campers, and this was addressed with the camp director and eventually with Brian and myself. We both spoke with the mother of the children and refunded the camp fees. We emailed the parents of the other children in camp to let them know what happened. We met with our camp staff, we put a hard stop to the game, and issued a statement on Facebook, which is attached, to remind the community that we do not endorse violence. We are very regretful that 2 of our campers were scared during a game they played at our camp. And we are using this incident as a learning opportunity for all of our staff. We look forward to further developing our training and providing the tools for counselors to grow and become the best role models they can be for our campers. spring class session and monthly happenings. Spring classes are underway. We're running 25 classes this session. I'll report on total revenue when I have a clearer number at the June meeting. Family art in the park is new this session. Due to some instructor conflicts, we've had to cancel the first few workshops, but updated information is available on the website and we've received some interest. I'm hoping these are successful and we can continue them into the summer. Garden to Table is off to a great start with Sandra Madison. The class has big ideas for the Ridgeville garden. Ruben and Marcos have done an awesome job at preparing the garden for planting. I'm not having a whole lot of luck with our party at the parks once a month. However, we've had more attendees coming to our monthly Ridgeville Readers Book Club, which is great. So I'm happy to see that program grow. Our special needs social dances have been a huge success. So we're expanding the monthly workshops into June. The 2 additional dates that we're having those dances are going to be Saturday, May 25th and Saturday, June 29th, both from 1:45 to 2:45 here at the community house. I've met with 2 new potential instructors that are interested in offering some outdoor workout classes this summer and line dancing in the fall, respectively. I look forward to further exploring those classes. YWCA Equity Summit. I did attend today on April 11th, the YWCA Equity Summit. Brian and I met with Tiffany McDowell, who's head of the Equity Institute with the YWCA, to discuss some seminars and perhaps some partnership opportunities with the YWCA. After attending the summit today, we are named as equity partners with the YWCA, which is great. I will receive some more networking. Well, I'll have more networking opportunities and be able to continue conversations about collaboration with community organizations. I'm really excited. I'm really excited. That was my next sentence. Okay. And then finally, I have a note on RPD programming. Over the past month or so, I was made aware of many conversations happening in our community regarding Ridgeville Park District programming. Many of these conversations were had through social media. I was tagged in some of them, which was helpful for me, for the sake of keeping up. And some I learned about through emails received asking me or Ridgeville to weigh in. This was very difficult. I take my job serving the Ridgeville community very seriously. I take the issue of equity and diversity very seriously, both in my professional and personal life. But I do not wish to engage in work matters on social media with my personal account. I could engage. I did try to clarify when I had easy answers to questions, but it makes me feel uncomfortable. As program director, I want very much to be a part of these conversations having to do with programming, and I want our programming to be helpful and meaningful to every person living in Ridgeville Park District. Please, moving forward, afford me that opportunity in person. Whether you're a commissioner, a constituent, an employee, a patron, my door is always open to you, and I enthusiastically welcome your feedback, concerns, experience, and ideas. And my card is on the table if anybody would like it. Yes?
Thank you, Natalie.
Yeah.
Do you know there is a Stand Against Hate as part of the Y
Yeah.
program, and if there's a way that Ridgeville could participate, that'd be great.
They're dropping off signs.
Great, thank you.
And then this last page is just what you put out.
That's just a statement. I just attached it so you can
Yeah.
see it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Jessica, so strategic planning and goals. I just wanted to say a few words tonight because this will be my last meeting as a commissioner here at Ridgeville Park District. And I've been here for a long time. I've been through a few through program directors, including Mike over here. But tonight I would just like to share my hopes for the district. And first of all, I'd like to thank everyone on the Ridgeville board for electing me as board president over the past year. It's been a challenging role in which I feel I have learned a lot. Governing body is a tricky thing to manage. Rather than try to set new policy tonight, I thought it might be best to share my hopes with you for the coming years. My biggest hope is that the Park District continues to thrive and offer many programs to all the constituents of this district. We live in a very diverse community with many different needs. The staff has done a great job offering many programs, including camps, concerts, farmers markets, classes, etc. I think we've grown a lot in the last 12 years. As of today, we have a beautiful new play set at Lighter Park, and I'm happy that it's going to be ready for the summer for everyone to enjoy it. I think that was a real success we had this year. And my hope for the new board is that you will work together with respect and dignity. I hope you set new goals to achieve a lot more here and really serve the Evanston community well. I think it's important that we realize how diverse this community is and we embrace that. And one of the things I think that we did that was really, really good was the after-school program over at Cayman. We partnered with the city of Evanston, brought a program for after school for shoot kids. I thought that was great. And then with your responding to your IAPD boot camp, I attended that a couple of years ago. So I did do that training out in Schaumburg or wherever it was. And I think I learned quite a few things about being a commissioner. And one of the things that I feel is important is realizing what our role here as commissioners are. And in the boot camp, I really learned, you know, these roles are for the executive director, these roles are for the commissioners, and you know, I think it really outlines it well. And I would encourage everyone to even attend that again because I think it's very, very valuable. But I wish everyone luck in the future endeavors here at Ridgeville, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Just want to thank you too for your service. 12 years is a long time to be part of the park district, and I know you had some great ideas and worked hard on follow through and leading us for the last couple of years. And I think you were the one that initiated the farmers market, and probably other things that don't come to mind right away. But thank you for your service.
The studio.
And the kitchen.
The kitchen.
The kitchen. With everything that's been going on, it's been really busy, but we overlooked a nice little gift for Ann, so if you'll tell me, I will take care of that in the next month. And we'll go have a nice dinner somewhere.
Yeah, a kitchen would be good.
What's that?
A kitchen would be good.
Well, Ann, I just want to say that I'm a better person because of your participation and involvement and sticking in there these last 12 years. I also believe our whole community is a better place because of your involvement. So please rest assured that you're leaving today, your legacy will remain, and our park district is a better place because of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great leadership.
All right, moving on. Lighter Park update. Do you have anything else on that, Brian?
Well, I've pretty much given all of it, other than what's going to happen now is we'll put the border in probably Monday, then our crew will put the wood chips in, and then we'll have it inspected, and then we'll open it probably, weather permitting now, because we're going to get a lot of rain coming up, probably well ahead of the May 15th goal we had. So look for that. If you want to get out there and take a peek, it looks beautiful. It's bigger than I had imagined. It's a nice place.
It's really nice. I've been over there a couple of times.
Yeah.
Last time today, it's really nice.
Kids,
Is it concrete?
and I've seen a lot of moms standing there with their little ones, and they're just looking through the fence.
Right.
And by the way, just a reminder, it's designed for 5 to 12-year-olds. So if you ever get a comment that, wow, my 3-year-old can't use one, we have a circuit next door that's for younger folks.
We have signs that indicate that. Does somebody know that?
What's that?
Does somebody know that, or is there something on
Yeah,
there?
there's 2 signs. There's 2 signs going on. You'll see the,
There's a sign on the fence already.
yeah, well, there's signs right now to stay
Yeah,
out,
5 to 12,
very
yeah.
politely, but there's gonna be interactive play. Their signs are going up. This play circuit's designed for 5 to 12-year-olds. The far west side has the platform. I didn't bring a photo down, but that sits at 8 feet high. It's all enclosed. You can climb up to it, but that sits at 8 feet high, and that's what it's supposed to be. So if you go over there and go, oh, that looks pretty high, that's the design. That is the right height. And then the spinner went in this afternoon. It's not ready, obviously, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be pretty nice. The kids are gonna enjoy that play circuit. It's state of the art.
Yes.
And then the roof, I already told you about that, but again, it appears we're gonna start Monday. Again, a lot of this, we're gonna get, I think, rain Monday, Thursday, Friday next week. Roofers aren't going up in the rain, so, but once they start, 5 or 10 days, all this should be completed before the next board meeting. So you'll be able to see a new roof and a new play circuit.
All right, local election official report. Debbie?
I wanted Natalie to give you the report since she's our official election.
Okay.
So that was what I meant when I put it on there.
So I had just reached out, there's not a tie at this point, but I had reached out to Colleen Gleason, who's my connection at the Cook County Clerk, just to ask her what would happen, and she is a very busy woman right now. So her response to me was that election results will be official on April 23rd. She said the Cook County has until the 16th to count mail-in ballots. After the 23rd, if there were a tie, then they will handle that in their office. She assured me I don't have to do anything about that. Thank God. That they'll take it from there. So that's.
I have one question. There's been information out in the community, apparently people have asked me that something about being said that Ridgeville has not been in compliance with law in the past when a commissioner resigns or when there's a vacancy on the board, not an election time.
Appointments?
Yeah, and who appoints the board member if there is a vacancy?
The state law is that,
Wait a minute.
excuse me.
Excuse me, we have a lawyer and we have an official.
I just want to, Commissioner too, excuse me.
I asked the question, I'd like to know.
And I'm trying to answer, but I'm not the legal person. All I'm saying is, in my reaching out to some attorneys, they did explain to me that in part districts in Illinois, the board decides and appoints that next commissioner if there's a vacancy. So that's what I learned, but of course our attorney would give the
legal.
legal.
The information that's going around is that the mayor appoints it, so I wanted that clarified. That's how I thought, and that's how we've always done it.
This has not happened in the time period that I've been
Right.
sitting here. David Saunders had dealt with it previously, but the board, the statute requires the board to vote, elect, appoint a new commissioner for the remainder of the term.
Right.
Typically, park districts will request people to apply so that they have a couple of resumes or applications to look at and make a decision based on that. But I don't think that's required.
That's what
Yes.
we've done in the past.
Yeah, I was sitting on the board before when we had a vacancy, and that's exactly how we did it.
It makes sense to do that whether it's not required.
Pardon?
It makes sense to ask for people to
Oh,
apply,
absolutely,
but it's not required.
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Also, just for the record, in my communication with the clerk's office, which also, they've been very friendly, they told me there's no other option except in a tie situation to flip a coin, and the winner becomes. It appears to me that the last time I checked, which was this afternoon, the hot contest between Commissioner Beatty and myself, we're separated by one vote right now. And according to the clerk, there were approximately 124 mail-in ballot requests, so they gave those to the voters, and about 65 have come in. So there's still a chance that some could come in, before the last day, which is Monday the 15th. So on the 16th, we should have a solid number on the votes, and then they certify it, I think, no later than the 23rd.
So I have one more question. If it were a tie, could one person concede to the other?
We asked that,
I'm asking that.
and we asked that to the clerk, and it was very clear, it's not legal statutorily to resign. You can verbally resign, but that doesn't change the flip of the coin. They have the two names that are the official people on the ballot, and whatever, I guess, heads or tails shows up, that's the person that's quote-unquote elected. Then after that, a person could resign if they wanted to, but that's for any commissioner.
Natalie, is that how you understood it from your?
She gave me different information.
What's yours?
She just told me that there are no rules at all about withdrawing or conceding after the 16th.
Okay.
So I don't know what happens, and I'm certainly happy to ask her, but I don't know what happens in that magic time between the 16th and the 23rd. But I asked her to clarify just kind of the rules about this, and she just said there are none having to do with withdrawing or conceding.
Thank you.
So,
But I'm happy to ask more specific questions if anybody has them.
You'd think it would be written.
I've looked in my fancy local election officials book, and there's nothing in there about the tying. So that's why I've reached out to her, because she did the training with me.
Probably just doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
Although there is another park district with the same situation.
Really?
Tie, yeah.
Seems unusual.
so did I understand you? You said there were 65
Mail-in ballots.
absentee ballots mailed in?
Right,
There hasn't.
Already.
right.
Yeah, but.
Out of the 124 that they gave.
Right, but.
So
they
a
have-
person doesn't have to send it in, they might just lose it or keep it.
Correct, correct. But I don't think they've counted 65. Have they?
Yes.
They have?
Yeah, and also, it turns out that so far, it looks like we have approximately 16,000+ registered voters in Ridgeville District. About 10,000 cast a ballot. 10% cast a ballot, about 1,700.
Yeah.
But about 600+ didn't vote at all for a Ridgeville candidate. So actually, about 7.5% voted for the highest candidate, Martha Gaines, who won, and then about 6% for the other candidates. So it's a low turnout, but that's what it is.
The president was on it, be big.
I would just ask that if I'm asking a question about a specific thing to a specific person, that person be allowed to answer it at least first.
I already talked to Ann about it. I have a family function / serious meeting to go to, so I am gonna excuse myself. It's all related to the past week's events. Natalie will take this, I'll get the bills on it.
Okay, thank you.
That's for executive.
And this is still going for this?
That's still going, Natalie will take care of that too.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
All right. All right, I think the next thing is discuss the summer employees for 2019. So, I just want to go over our policy for hiring employees that are related to people. On February 13, 2014, we passed a part of a hiring policy concerning nepotism. In this policy, it states, it is our desire at Ridgeville Park District to reduce potential conflict of interest as it relates to hiring of relatives. The term relatives will be defined as spouse, life partner, parent, step-parent, sibling, child, stepchild, in-law, aunt, uncle, niece, nephew, and all its constituents to have a process in place that allows for a true vetting of qualified prospects. With that said, if a relative of a board member or administrative staff through the hiring process is recognized as the best candidate for a posted position, the board will make the final decision. This process will also include the following: 2 weeks of public posting to the Ridgeville community through such entities as faith-based groups, schools, and civic organizations. At least 3 qualified applicants when a relative is being considered. So my question to Natalie today was, how did we adhere to this policy here at Ridgeville for one of our employees who is a camp director? And so, can you just explain what you did?
Sure. We have a list, an email list of about 20 local organizations, all of which are what you named. And I send an email out to them about job openings that we have for the summer and ask them to share that with their communities. So I sent that email out for this year, February 20th, for them to share with their communities. And then I also posted our job openings on our website.
Okay. And what were the names of some of the organizations?
We send them to Reba Place, St. Nick's, the YWCA. I'd have to like go through there, and I think ETHS. I'd have to go through there and like really look, but I printed up the list of emails for you.
And is this something where they then post it on their site, or how does that work?
I imagine, I don't actually know specifics of how they share, whether they print it and post it. The email that they receive from us is very easily something you could print and just put up on like a job board if they had them. So I'm not sure exactly how they deliver that information to folks, but that's the list that I am required to, that is what I'm required to send to the communities.
Okay. And why do you choose not to go on like Indeed and things like that?
I do. For this particular summer, we have a huge return rate this year, so I didn't have a lot of spots to fill, to be honest with you. And when I put it on Indeed, we get a lot of response. So if I need to, I certainly will. But at that point, I didn't need to. I also will sometimes cross-post the things that I put onto our social media. For example, I just posted about we need a T-ball coach. So I had an applicant recently reach out to me about that. But so that's another resource I use sometimes.
Okay. And with regard to this particular position, what kind of response did you get?
I did not get any adults that applied for any of our camp director positions. I go to the mayor's employment fair every year as well. I think I had maybe 20 youth applicants that came to me about camp counselor positions. Again, I was only able to take like 3 or 4. And then I had some folks that had reached out through the website that filled out the application that we have that's available on our website, but all of them were 18 or under, or 17 or under. They were high schoolers.
And so as far as other camp directors, how were you able to find them then?
I ended up reaching out to, I had a vacancy in the Time Travelers Camp, and I reached out to Alicia Mayan, who has been one of our staff for years, and she's a recent graduate. She graduated and is now working at Chute Middle School, so I reached out to her to see if she'd be interested in returning for that position.
I see.
And she said yeah.
So if you're not getting applicants, you don't just automatically go to like an Indeed or Craigslist or anything like that?
I didn't right now, but I can.
Okay.
Why is this all, it just seems to me that this is all on your shoulders to do. I find it odd that, I know Brian had something to do, but a lot of these things rest on your shoulders, and I just think it's a bit much when it comes down to personnel and, he should have some answers too, and I'm sorry you have to do this by yourself. So I don't get that part of things.
I do talk to him. I will type things, he will read them, we will discuss them, but.
Well, in the job descriptions, aren't you responsible for hiring the camp and program personnel?
For camp, yes,
Yeah.
camp personnel and instructors for classes. He hires which is why I didn't have exact numbers for you last month, because I handle some of the
Right.
staffing and he handles some of the staffing, but he staffs the Youth in the Parks program, but I take on...
And maintenance crew and like the care of the parks and the buildings and stuff, he hires those people. So as program director, that would seem like that would be an appropriate job for you, doesn't it? To hire
My staff?
Yeah, your staff.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they report to you too.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
They do, and the camp directors report to both me and Brian.
And are we talking about the list of folks that are recommended for hire? Because last month we talked about that list being probably ready for this month's.
The only people that applies to at this point would be Lois Rosinski as our pre-K camp director. I did also, and I don't know if this needs to be included in this, but I do have sisters that are working as camp counselors this summer.
I think our policy talks about supervisors, so peers that are relatives wouldn't be part of our policy on nepotism, but it's really about board members and managers and executive director types. But I thought we were going to see a list of all the folks that have been offered.
I didn't type anything up, but
Okay.
it's really only Lois. I don't know if,
Could we have that for the next meeting?
Is it just Lois on the list?
yeah.
So just write Lois.
For nepotism, but last meeting, what I asked for was a list of all the employees.
Oh, I have that.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Oh, yeah.
It's just if everyone could have that. It doesn't
Sure.
have to be tonight, but
I can copy it for you. before you go.
whatever. And so right now, the only thing on the table really is the nepotism policy for Brian's wife. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
And the Williams,
Darren is working this summer, Kevin is not.
okay, so that eliminates that nepotism problem or issue.
Yes, but, and
Okay.
that's why I'm not sure if you want to have the conversation about the two girls that are sisters.
Isn't that the same thing?
It would be the same as the
It's
Williamses.
the same thing as the sisters.
Well, no, they're not supervisors, are they?
They're not, but neither is Darren or,
Well, one of the Williams is supervisor of all the youth in the parks.
I guess he would be.
Yeah, he would be the supervisor. So
The
for
lead.
him to have a sibling or a family member hired would need board approval.
Got it.
See?
So these are the same people that we talk about every year, right?
Well, for 6 years, I've been talking about the nepotism, and I believe that in a government agency, we shouldn't have any, but I respect the policy we came up with. So tonight, I think we just need to follow that policy.
And it doesn't say here anything about supervisors, it just says employees. in this.
Oh,
I mean, it sounds as though it's any employee from what I can read here. So,
So do we vote to make it okay again this year, or what? That's what we've done in the past.
yeah, I guess my only question is why we're not putting it out on things like Indeed. I guess if we're not getting any applicants for something that's open, I mean, I see a bunch of stuff for City of Evanston on Indeed. I guess I would like to see it advertised there.
and it sounds like maybe District 65 is a good candidate pool too. I work with a lot of teachers in 65 that are qualified to supervise, preschool kids. And I'm just wondering if there's a way that we could better, next year maybe, include 65 in a more intentional way so that the word gets out. As an employee, I never got the word. So I'm not sure where the glitch is. It could be, it just goes with the HR person maybe. But there's not the next step. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I'm just questioning some of these organizations just because, like YOU, I mean, they have their own employees. So, I guess I would just think you would go to a hiring site.
May I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay. Should I be trying to fill, I honestly don't know the answer. Should I be trying to fill that specific camp director's role before we have this vote?
I think so. Yes, I mean, I think that makes sense because that's the way the policy is written. So, I mean, maybe it needs to wait a month,
Table it for a month.
I mean, I don't feel like what has been done so far is sufficient for that particular goal. I don't think we have fulfilled what this policy says.
One option to move forward, if the group is agreeing to it, is you and Brian maybe talk about it and see what the timing is, because you guys know the timing, and you might be up against a wall on that. So, but if there is any option for more advertising over the next couple of weeks, that would be great. We could do 65, the one you mentioned, but specifically, yeah, for that, what's the name of the position?
It's camp director for our pre-K camp.
Yeah, and see what kind of interest we get. I don't know, but if there's not time, then just let maybe our president know or the next president.
Anna, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
If her name was not Brzezinski, would she be considered a valuable employee at Ridgeville?
People will be very sad if she's not back. Yeah.
So I guess why are we gonna put this off for a month? Because I don't understand how we would hire somebody
That's good.
in May for a job that starts June 6th or whatever day it starts. And would that be a responsible thing to do? I mean, some people have signed up for camp already. They probably expect Lois to be the director. So there's probably some connection there already.
Well, part of my answer is that part of the equity lens that's important for all of us as we go through running Parks and Rec is to think about white privilege, think about the different demographics of those who we hire, and in particular, pay close attention to family members of executive directors and managers. That's why we have the policy. And I think if we broaden the applicant pool and find qualified folks, it would help the park district and our diverse community if we were able to hire people that better represented our community.
I would just keep in mind that this is an 8-week position, number one. It's an 8-week part-time position that normally people would not be that interested in. And to have an adult, we have no applicants as adults for the job postings that you did. I mean, does that not tell us something? That no applicants approach Ridgeville Park District
Year after year.
for a job. And we have somebody that's worked here for 10 or 15 years, and I'm not exactly sure how long. I think she makes about $2,500 to $3,000, so we're not talking like a lot of money, but she's a trusted, valuable employee. So to beat ourselves up every month about this issue, every year about this issue, because she's related to somebody, to me, does not seem to make sense. And well, if she said she was not interested in the job, and we posted it, and we did everything we had to do, fine, you go to Indeed. But if you want to reduce Natalie's workload, there's an employee there that's qualified and well-liked. So do we make her job more difficult by basically saying that Lois does not have a job here, and we're going to actively find someone to take her place? To me, that does not make sense.
Patrick, I would argue that there are probably, within our district, I think Dan quoted 16,000 plus voters. I think there's someone, not only within our district, that could actually do this job. I don't buy that Lois is the only one that can do this job.
But why haven't they approached us? Why haven't they? Why haven't you brought them to Natalie and said, this is a good person for this job? Why doesn't Dan do that? If you want to do this, do it. Find somebody.
Year after year, you do this, you put it out there and nobody qualified, only younger people apply.
There's a lot of layers, I think, to answer this, and it would take, I think, some equity and diversity, beyond diversity training to really dig deeply into this. But short answer is this. The people of color that I'm familiar with that are neighbors don't feel like they have a chance because for the last decade, last 20 years, white people have had the jobs. And I think that part of our job is to look with an equity lens and turn the corner and start thinking about how we can better represent our community and those that we hire. It's very simple.
Let me just remind you that the other camp supervisor is not white, so it has nothing to do with that.
Great. But in particular, our policy is clear, and I think it sounds like there's an openness to Natalie to at least explore with Brian, if there's time, to explore these other options before the actual hire happens. Is that fair to say?
Sure. I mean, I can put it on Indeed.
And District 65, again, There's actually a person in charge of all the preschool, and that director could help you.
Do you happen to know?
I'll get it to you, you bet.
I'll make a motion to postpone the table this discussion until next month.
I'm second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Let's see what's next. I think we have citizens' comments.
Or call the commissioners.
Call the commissioner, sorry. Can we, would you like to say something?
We're
Nothing.
I'd like to make a statement about last month's Alderman Rainey's public comment, in particular about black people being stupid who want a porta potty.
Say that.
In the,
Didn't say that.
I think I've got the floor.
Excuse me, can we give him the floor?
What I was saying is I'd like to talk a minute and make a statement about what I felt like from Alderman Ann Rainey when she said that black people are stupid who want a porta potty in their backyard in the parks. And secondly, when she said that Rob Beatty needs to put on his big boy pants. I found it offensive. I found it racist. I found it inappropriate. It shamed me as a citizen of Evanston to have an elected official to speak that way. I was able to speak my mind and my words of dissatisfaction with City Council. It's up to them on how they handle it. It's up to Alderman Rainey how she handles it. But I do want to say, in my position here as a commissioner, that's unacceptable. The people in my community, there's not a stupid person in the bunch. People who want to relieve themselves with dignity and privacy is a good thing, and that's something we should facilitate. I personally feel like we should have a porta potty in every one of our parks so that our constituents can have a safe place to void. However, that said, I just want to make an apology that our city right now is not at the place that we could be, but I'm open to being on that journey to become a better city. Thank you.
I would like to make a comment,
Okay,
if it's okay.
yes.
I would like to make an apology that this board embarrasses me. To go in front of a city council meeting and say the things that Commissioner Coyne said is, I don't even have a word for it. Ann Rainey said, I've watched the tape several times, the tape that we took, not the tape that Mr. Coyne took. Ann Rainey said, anyone who wants a porta potty in their backyard is stupid. I don't care if they're black, green, blue, yellow. She did not say. And when she talked about putting on your big boy pants, she was talking to both commissioners that have complained about things on the board and have been on the board for 6 years and have done nothing. She did not say, Rob Beatty. I just need to say that. And because of Commissioner Coyne's going to the city council meeting and saying those things, then this Monday we had another guy that we've never even seen him here. And he's carrying on about, the same thing, which is not true. And if we want to watch the tape that Natalie does, we can all see that it is not true what Dan Coyne is saying.
All right, anybody else?
I just have a quick comment. I'm looking for a fresh start next month, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna make any comments. I just think more comments are not needed right now. I'm looking for a new start next month.
Okay.
I want to congratulate Martha too,
Yeah.
and Matt.
Yeah, congratulations on
Yep.
your new positions.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And then we are back to citizens' comments.
William Meeson again. Real quick, this is an observation. In regards to having a policy that is supposed to help with diversity and things of that nature, and then to sit here and publicly watch you guys kind of squirm around it and not deal with it, and then to watch the animus back and forth in this room right now, it's very powerful. And if you're here for the community and the children and the rest of the stuff that you claim that you ran for, I don't see it right now. I'm dead serious. I don't see it. The thing, and it's you know, we can pick sides, we can say which tape is right, which tape isn't right. Ann Rainey isn't on this board, but I know what I saw in that tape. I also know that there's a porta potty sitting over in Penny Park, and I saw a line of kids out there using it the other day when it was warm outside, and it wasn't a problem.
In which part?
Penny Park, you know, the big
Penny,
beach park on
yeah,
Main
yeah,
Street,
yeah,
in
Penny
that
Park.
one. There's a porta potty out there, there was a line of kids outside using it, and it's just, in order and it's funny to me, because I'm sitting here watching white people argue with each other, I'm used to arguing with y'all. It's, in order to get anything done, there has to be some measure of the common ground, and you gotta leave your own agendas at home. And I don't see that right now.
I agree with you.
I don't see that right now. And I know you talk about fresh blood coming in, and we talk about problems that have gone on for over 40 years since I was a kid. This is why. This is why. It's toxic.
Anybody else?
I'd like to say something, and I had no intention of saying anything until I just sat and watched that exchange, which was, to use your word, embarrassing. You are public commissioners, and you're yelling at him and cutting him off, and I mean, this was, I came here to speak my mind about my child, and I watched elected officials, I mean, I don't even know what to say. I've been to many board meetings. I've never been to this board meeting, and this is embarrassing.
It is?
So don't tell him to, you know, let Natalie speak when you're doing the same thing back. You guys need to get a hold of yourselves. I mean, this is, I don't even know what to say. But I agree with you. Let's, you know, let's act like commissioners of our community and set aside our differences and stop sniping and do what's best for this park district to make this as wonderful as it's been. I mean, I'm floored.
All right.
I also have
okay.
Professionally, I'm an economic consultant, and I assess discrimination in fair lending products. And basically, there's disparate impact, like in mortgages or credit cards or anything like that. And the key factor of this is that we have to document information and have any of the demographics information actually be filled out by the actual participants. So I hope that when you talk about what's the demographics here, that you're actually gathering that information and you're tracking that information, so we can actually get actual metrics to either compare it to our census to see whether or not the demographics of Ridgeville actually correspond to the demographics of the community that Ridgeville serves. So I hope that you're doing that, either using a census form, similar to census form, or like HMDA, which is a mortgage, it's a tracking, it's a regulatory tracking that you have to fill out whenever you have to fill out a mortgage. Something like that, so that this is actually tracked. There's too much bias if someone's just looking at somebody and sort of guessing sort of what their ethnicity or racial background is. That doesn't work. There's been too many studies there that's just not the right approach to go. So I hope that that's not what's going on, and you're actually filling out forms.
Thank you.
And tracking that so that you have actual data from quarter to quarter on not only your employees, your campers, board members, so that we can see some progress within the years to come. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Barbara said you had something to say.
Yeah, I missed the call, commissioners. I just want to say, I don't know what's going to happen in the next month. I've been on for 6 years, and I keep hearing things like, I've done nothing. And I'm like, wow. That's pretty interesting. I've done nothing. Not only just porta potties, but Facebook Live, some of the things that we've brought to this board. I mean, just me being here on this board as a person of color is serious change. And maybe I snuck in, and because, you know, nobody was voting at the time or whatever happened, but I've been around this neighborhood for the last 20 years, and I've enjoyed this neighborhood. But what I see tonight is actually, I know it's a hard thing to look at now, but it's actually good. I'm so glad that you two are here. I'm so glad that Malika's here. I'm so glad that Will Eason is here. We have not had anyone here in the 6 years that I've been here unless we've been bickering over something like a porta potty and then people come out. I think what we have here is the start of something. Even if I am not the one that's on the board, or Dan, I am still going to be involved with Ridgeville. And I think coming to meetings is very, very important, and maybe I'll be on the other side. But what I've learned from being on the board is, you know, I was taught the right way, and my mom taught me the right way, and it's how to treat people, and how to be civil, and how to apologize when you've done, you know, you felt like you wronged someone. And I would just ask you as a community to bring some more people here. Now, maybe the way the light got shed on Ridgeville, maybe, you know, you don't agree with it, but the light is on Ridgeville now. And I think there's some people who are going to show up and actually hold this board accountable, whether I'm on it or not. But what I've done, if people have said I've done nothing, Miss Rainey said I didn't do anything, let me tell you something. There are kids of color, there are kids of none color that are out here that are watching me. And you know what? I did the right thing, because these kids have to know, they have to know that, number one, you have to stand up for something. And sometimes you have to be quiet, and sometimes there's a time to raise hell. I really appreciated Will Eason. I've been knowing him a long time. I appreciated his comments tonight, and I know he's coming from a real place. And I just want to lift you up and say thank you for being here and standing up. You know, it's been hard to be on the board at times. I've been ignored. I've had ideas. I've come out with stuff, and it's like people just drudge on and they do what they do. But don't forget the importance of tonight and you being here, all of you being here tonight. I think this is going to be powerful for the future, because I don't think you're going to let this go. I don't think you're going to let this go. And that's what I'm excited about. And I really appreciate you being here. And thank you, Ann, for your leadership. Sorry that didn't do the chance to say anything earlier.
That's okay. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. We're going to go into executive session now, so
I'll make a motion to adjourn, and then we make another motion for executive, right?
yeah. Before we adjourn to executive session, one of the questions I had to Charles is why are we reviewing these specific minutes when we have closed session minutes within the last 6 months that we haven't looked at? So it doesn't really make sense to me that we'll look at something from April and then January and February, but not October, November, and December.
Well, these are January and February, and then there's one from April of last year.
But we didn't.
And I don't know why.
But I feel it's incomplete because there are other executive session minutes closed session minutes that we should review, because you're supposed to do it every 6 months.
Every 6 months they should be reviewed.
Right, so I feel like we're missing something there.
Is this automatically on the agenda?
No.
No,
Oh.
someone requested this to be on the agenda.
So
I think it would be appropriate to have a policy that, say April and October, I don't care which 2 months, but every 6 months that the board does look at the executive minutes that are still closed. And it should just be, it seems to me April seems like a reasonable month, and I guess October, but it's up to the board how they want to do it.
And who brought up the idea to do these tonight?
It was Brian.
Uh-huh.
I think Brian put it in there.
Maybe Brian does have it on the schedule, I don't know.
Well, I asked him why we didn't do the other minutes. It's just confusing to me, so I just want to bring that up.
So should we,
So every 6
No, I mean, I
months,
think we should do it, but I don't
but
understand.
don't we have to adjourn and then make another motion to go into executive?
Yes.
Okay.
but every 6 months, you need to look at the minutes that are still closed
That are out.
to make a determination on whether they need to stay closed or whether they can be released.
I see. Oh, okay, of executive session.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay.
And a question on the procedure. I thought that we're not closing our board meeting, we're going into executive session that's closed, and then we come out of executive session and make a motion, whatever we decide, and then close.
So we don't stop this meeting? I thought we do, don't we?
No, I think you move to go into executive
Oh,
session.
move,
Yeah.
those are the words.
And then
Okay.
after, presumably, that's agreed to,
Then you go back
then
to,
you have your closed session, and I don't know what you guys do there, because I usually leave. But presumably, you vote to come out of that closed
yeah,
session.
we do, we make.
And then you would adjourn your meeting.
Okay, so what, the motion I wanna make is to go into executive session.
Okay.
Okay.
All in favor?
I,